Good morning, Internet. I'm just uploading yesterday's vlog right now, so by the time you're watching this video, yesterday's vlog should already be up. Please be sure to go check it out. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Eating some lunch right now, plain round bread. This is potatoes and cauliflower, I want to say, but it looks like there might be something else in it. Yeah. Rada, pretty bird. I think there was some garbanzos in there, potatoes and cauliflower, and I think there's some egg in there. It's been kind of cloudy all day. I think this is a light, but I can't tell because it's this camera. I don't know if the quality is very good on this camera. It's just been like kind of cloudy and like shitty all day today. Okay, so a little bit about epilepsy and my like health condition, like my my disease. So I was initially diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 14. I remember it was Ramadan when that occurred. It was like it was freshman year of high school. It was like the first month, like it was just a couple of days into the freshman year of high school, that basically I was fainting or blacking out for a couple of minutes. I was grinding my teeth, and I didn't have any memory as to what happened. I would wake up with like grogginess and stuff. So I don't remember exactly, you know what happened, but I know that. So anyways, epilepsy is as far as like I know, like as far as what I know, epilepsy is hereditary. It's found in my family. My father had epilepsy, as well as my first cousin. My female first cousin also had epilepsy. So I know that. Other than that, I don't know of any other causes of epilepsy. So, and then the way that it works is basically your brain consists of millions and millions of neurons. It's the basic cell of your brain, just like your skin cells, and everything, your bone cells, your muscle cells, I guess. Your brain's basic functional unit is known as a neuron. It contains of a head, which is the main like brain of the cell. It contains the cell body, and then it contains like hair-like kind of like protrusions that are known as synapses. The synapses release electrical messages and signals to ensure the functionality of your brain, and everything like that. So basically these messages are actually like electrical signals, and it's just to ensure that you're alive, your brain is alive, and everything. With epilepsy, there's a normal level of electrical transmission in your brain. With epilepsy, it's abnormal and it's significantly higher. When there's too much electrical activity in your brain, like physiologically, you can't take it. I will just black out. So yeah. It causes me to black out, and it causes me to have a seizure. So I just I clench my teeth. I've bitten my tongue before, I think. I have like shattered teeth and everything like that. And yeah, so we don't really know like what the cause of it is, basically. And so untreated, basically, you know, you will have a seizure. I'll have a seizure. So yeah. The last time that I had a seizure was when I was 17. But because I do take my medications, it is, you know, well under control. I was initially diagnosed with petit mal seizures, otherwise known as petite mal seizures. I think the petit is just the Latin way to pronounce that diagnosis. But yeah, they're petite mal seizures. Now they're just it's just recurring seizures now. Recurring means that they will periodically occur. Recurring, like they will periodically reoccur. There's no known cure for it. But anyways, so the thing with me, like, I feel like it's difficult for me to like have friends and make friendships, because it's sort of like bipolar disorder in a sense that it cycles. So if for example, today I didn't take my medication on time. I have to take it once in the morning, once at night, which is what I normally do. Today I didn't, and I had to run an errand basically earlier today. And that took like almost all day. I didn't get back home until like 4 o'clock. So yeah, and then when I got home, I couldn't remember if I had taken my medication or not, so I didn't take it right away either. I ended up not taking my medication until like 6:30. Okay, so basically the medication it controls my seizures. I'm not exactly sure how it does it, but it's prescribed for that. So yeah, but I think, like, I mean, it's just my guess that it controls it when I don't take my medication. I think the electrical activity in my brain, it escalates like normal, and I think what it does is it builds up like a freaking conduit or a transformer. It builds up, and yeah, and it just kind of like, so I think some like stress is felt, I think, a little bit like throughout my whole body from that, and I think it sort of kind of gives me like pain in my head, yeah, and I think it's like gradually it does build up, and I'm able to actually sense the electrical like activity like going on in the back of my head, and kind of like the ganglia and whatnot. So yeah, but I don't know, that could completely be way wrong. But it sort of, I feel like it sort of builds up, like as far as the electrical activity, it kind of cycles like I said, like a transformer. I mean, what do you do with all that electricity? So and I think it kind of brings on some tension inside me, because I'm not really sure like where it goes. I don't know if it causes my heart to beat faster, or cause me to have a faster heartbeat. I'm not really too sure on that part, because I really don't know that much about my own disease, my illness. But yeah. So anyways, that'll happen, and it's sort of like I said, it's sort of like bipolar disorder, where there's like cycles. It's sort of cyclical, and I know bipolar disorder is more of like a psychological condition, where like epilepsy is supposed to be very like neurological. So yeah, yeah. But it does cycle, and then, but what happens, it's completely different from bipolar disorder. With epilepsy, it cycles to like electrically, like it just builds up a lot of electricity and electrical activity in my brain, resulting in a seizure, or loss of consciousness, which didn't happen today because I took my medication. I've always taken my medication on time. I don't miss a dose. So yeah. And basically, like, I think when I miss my medication, I sort of lose my like sense of reality a little bit, or it sort of like gets hazy at that point. It's really difficult to explain, because it, like, I don't know if because I think I sort of feel like a little young for this kind of thing, for having recurring seizures and there not being any permanent treatment for epilepsy, for it to just go away and never happen again, to the point that I don't have to take my medication anymore. I feel like there's a lot of stress already going into that. I feel like, honestly though, it slows down, like drastically slows down my processing of the world around me. Whenever I've missed my medication, basically. So that happened earlier today, and so being already kind of young and having to deal with this, I've been having to deal with it since I was 14 years of age, and kind of you know, being on my own and like having to keep up with my medication all by myself. You know, it was like a huge burden basically on like a young kid, you know, right from the beginnings. So I don't know, I feel like I've been having to deal with that for quite a long time, and yeah, and the thing is, like, when I've missed my dose, like, of my medication, I sort of I do kind of go into like a panic mode. You know, and I'm not sure if that's a neurological thing. The buildup of the electrical activity in my brain is causing me to just neurologically experience a lot more stress in reality. But yeah, because I sort of tend to feel like a lot of tension and sort of like pain in my head and stuff. And I also kind of get like this hazy sort of feel of what's going on around me, because I feel like I'm about to pass out. So like feeling like constantly about to pass out, it's kind of scary. So I feel like fear is a factor there. So I feel like the fear kind of like the fear of you know, of having this illness and like being a burden on somebody else, it causes me to panic just a little bit, and it's really difficult to explain to others, you know, that are perfectly normal humans, you know why my behavior will suddenly de-escalate. Like it will just, I'm done, you know, basically I'm just like, I don't know how to handle it. And I feel like, you know, the people that are around me, I feel like if they don't know, you know, I feel like they don't know like how to handle the situation. I feel like I'm the one that actually knows how to best deal with that situation. And if I'm unconscious and I'm passed out, you know, I don't like to be kind of out and about with other people. So yeah, it just and then when I am, like, coincidentally when I am with someone, I get really scared at that point, because I feel like I'm the irresponsible one. Basically, if I was in a car accident, if I was involved in a car accident, and you know, it was due to me not having taken my medication, and myself having a seizure behind the wheel, it would be my fault. So yeah, it's just like a huge, I don't know. I don't really want to like simplify it. I feel like, you know, it is something that is very important, and it should be like it should be, you know, because it's an illness, so it should be on the top of everybody's minds, like, you know, all the time. So, yeah. And so, like, I'm not like bipolar or anything like that, but I do panic, especially like today, and sometimes I kind of will, it will sort of like flip a switch basically. So I will like go into like this sort of like mode where I freeze up, and you know, there's people around, and I'm acting unusual or behaving kind of differently from everybody, because of my freezing up and just you know, the mental stress that gets to me. It sort of is no longer internalized, it's now external, and I don't know, yeah. And I feel like a lot of, like, I know my mom has come up to me and has said that, you know, have you taken your medication today? You're acting really, really bad, or kind of, you know, you're not being very nice or something like that. So, yeah. And that happened today. So, and then like, so it, and I feel like, you know, it's not really a good thing. It's not nice, it's definitely not nice. I mean, if somebody goes to me and they're like, you're not being very nice, I'm probably not being very nice, you know? And that's because of, my not having taken the medication, and the other person being, just your, you know, your run-of-the-mill kind of like, average human being. They not having had any experience with something like that, type of confusion. So, yeah. And yeah, so if I kind of act sporadic, like if I sort of act a little unusual or something like that, you know, people ask me, you know, hey, like, what's going on and stuff, and I usually react nervously, because I don't have an answer as to what's going on, other than the fact that I didn't take my medication and I need to go and take my medication, and then I have to go into this whole like explanation about like, why do I need to take medication, and what is seizures, and like every single person that I've ever met or have ever come across, you know, will ask the same question. So it's also like kind of repetitive, and it sort of like puts me in this like very bad situation where, you know, I don't know how to behave because I have neglected to take my medication. Yeah. So the vast majority will say that, you know, yeah, it's your fault, blah blah blah, you're acting very bad. And when somebody comes to me like that, it's sort of a shock to me, because and they say like, hey, you know, you're acting badly, you know, it's not very nice. So when somebody comes up to me and says something like that, I first experience shock. Like, I'm like, you know, I get confused immediately, because I am the type of person that has like a really bubbly personality, and I'm very like tactful and mindful and knowledgeable. So my fear of looking stupid to a person that I consider my friend, you know, it scares me quite a bit. I mean, it makes me just want to go and crawl into bed and like put the covers over my head and just never get out, because it's very embarrassing. I also sort of have this huge fear of like sensory overload, because that's the number one thing that you hear about with epilepsy and seizures is like, I'm not really sure exactly what I mean by sensory overload, but I remember being in Pakistan and it was like 4 a.m. and you know, I was like 14 years old, you know, and I thought that I was like a really, really strong, you know, individual, and I had like, you know, so much going for me, because I was about to or I had just started high school and everything. And we were at my cousin's wedding and everything, and it was my cousin, my first cousin on my mom's side, his marriage and his sister's marriage, I think at the same time, and I think one other person was getting married on that same day, my other cousin as well. I think 3 of my first cousins on my mom's side were getting married that day, and it was like 4 a.m. already, and like I had been, of course, you know, like in the US, like I don't dance and stuff like that, or anything like that, you know, but in Pakistan, like I was just like, well, you know, that's the norm out there, so you gotta, you know, you gotta go and bust some moves, you know. And so I wasn't wearing my shoes, and it was sort of like cold weather. I think it was during winter like break that I went there, and I had not been wearing my shoes like the whole entire night. There was no clock around, so I had no kind of like sense of the time. And I remember the whole time I was trying to look for a clock, you know. Nobody was able to tell me what time it was, because there's a huge like communication gap. Like nobody really speaks English, and that's the only language that I taught myself and was able to communicate in the best way that I knew how, growing up in the States. So since like I was 6 years old, and then not being able to communicate with anybody and everything like that, you know, it was just kind of a culture shock. Anyways, and I couldn't believe that I was experiencing something like that, but I thought I was fine, I was normal. Then I was like starting to dance, and then I sort of I think I went to sleep at that point, at some point at the night, and then I woke up very early. Like it must have been 6 o'clock. I think I only got like 2 hours of sleep that night. I woke up, you know, and I went to use the restroom, and I was like brushing my teeth. I just lost consciousness. I fell down, and I blacked out. So, and then at that point, you know, I guess a couple of minutes went by. I woke up and I was in a bed with my covers over me, and there's like, I don't even know what was going on. I was like, what the heck is going on? Is this how you guys handle, you know, medical emergencies? Nobody really knew, because it was like a village where it first happened. And, you know, nobody really knew what was going on. I had doubts about the doctor and, like, you know, if, like, whether or not he knew what he was doing. So I was like, wow. I was pretty much SOL, big time. That's part of the reason I won't go back to Pakistan. But yeah, I woke up and then I was walking around. I was fine. I was like, I don't know what happened. What the heck happened? Nobody would talk to me at first. People, it looked like everybody was drawing a blank, and I was like, hello. Because I was like, why am I in the bed? Because, you know, I, like, eventually I was able to gain my own, you know, my own kind of sense of reality and, like, come back into consciousness and, you know, see what had happened. Nobody would talk to me. Like, my mom was there, but my dad passed away. I think back, I'm not sure. My dad was a physician, so he and he had seizures too, but he wasn't there at that time when that happened. So I was like all by myself, and I just wanted to get the heck out of Pakistan at that point. And yeah, when I got back to the States, I felt relief, like, immediately. So there's my little spiel about what happened. And I mean, it was a couple of minutes. I started walking around. I was trying to act normal, because everybody else was like pretty much acting like normal. So I was like, okay, I guess nothing happened, because, you know, normally when some emergency like that happens, people immediately try to inform you, you know, hey, blah blah blah. I got nothing. So I just started walking around normally, and nobody actually addressed what happened after that again, ever. Nobody, like my aunts, nobody. So at that point I kind of realized, like, I was on my own on this, and that I was pretty much screwed for life after that. Like, I had no friends in Pakistan. At least in the States, people were like, you know, a lot friendlier and stuff. But in Pakistan, like, I didn't have any friends. I felt very, very kind of unattached. Yeah. Also, like, on that night, coincidentally, it was a wedding night. And the thing is, in Pakistan, like, they don't always, like, I know back then they did not always have electricity. Like, they always had communication, electricity. I mean, no internet, basically. People out there just live kind of like they're under a rock. And so there was no like actually like in that house, in that household, like there was no actually like all around electricity. There was no light. And also I think they had like those flickering like wedding lights, the LED, you know, multicolor lighting and stuff, kind of here and there, not like your traditional like lighting setup for a Pakistani wedding. It was really, really bad. Yeah, and I think that since the electricity situation, as well as kind of the way that those lights are built, I feel like they're a little bit more strong compared to your average one that you can buy. So I think that could have, you know, onset the whole thing. It could have added to it. They're definitely like healthcare, and your health and your life is definitely not a #1 concern for people out there, or a priority. I think psychologically that traumatized me like quite a bit. But my neurologist did say that, you know, with proper treatment, I should be able to function normally, to 100% potential. And I'm hoping that's my main concern. I'm hoping that, you know, I will be able to do that. And I sort of feel like I'm going crazy, or I'm losing my mind, because I don't know if I'm supposed to actually feel any, like physiologically, if I'm actually physically, like if I'm actually supposed to feel any of the burning sensation, or like any electrical impulses, if I'm actually supposed to actually physically feel them. Yeah, whenever the tension actually starts to occur. And I feel like whenever I do have a seizure, I feel like that there's a sense of blame among the people that were around me at the time that it happened. I feel like people, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, feel responsible, or you know, have some feeling of guilt that it was their fault, when I need to be taking care of myself and not really worrying about what other people are thinking about it and what they should do for me, like, you know. Sometimes I sort of do experience like sadness, or just kind of like crying, basically. Just I think it's a side effect of the medication that I take, that I have to take for my seizures, but also because I feel like, you know, at that age when I first experienced my first ever seizure, I feel like I grew up and I was 18 rather than, you know, 14. I basically skipped all my years of high school. Because after taking my medication finally at like 6:30 earlier today, it made me feel like it literally like just brought me back to life. I felt a lot less tension. With the epilepsy, I felt like maybe something like hypothermia or something like that, where I was just kind of sort of crumbling up into a ball, and like, as if I was asleep, But after taking the medication, I was sort of like revived back into life and sort of felt normal again, physically, and yeah, and just an overall sense of relief, like extreme relief. Sort of like working all day in the hot sun and then being done and drinking like a really, really cold drink. Alright guys, well I'm gonna go ahead and close the vlog for the night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next.